Hi, sophomores. It's Mrs. Kern again. Good to see your videos from last week. That really made me feel good to see you and to hear you. So thank you for doing that. I'm hoping to inspire you again with this week's lesson. I know the Taylor Molly lesson didn't involve making a video, but I'm going to have you do that again this time, mainly because you did such a good job and because I liked hearing your voice. This lesson is inspired sort of by the Taylor Molly poem in thinking that I would love to give a female poet some recognition. And also it goes back to 2 weeks ago when we did our a poem lesson, and that we learned that pretty much anybody could be a poet and that anything can inspire a poem and anything can be a poem. So I am going to walk you through my slideshow here, and know that you can do your assignment this very same way using Screencastify for this week. Remember, the Screencastify icon looks like an arrowhead pointing to the right. And I noticed that today when I tried to get back in here, I had a orange circle here with a exclamation point. And I clicked on that and it said that my Screencastify had been disabled, and click here to enable. So if you get that message, just do that. Click on it and you'll be able to make it work. And again, try and do this. You guys, we might be doing this remote learning for a long time, and you might as well try something new, even if you have to get out of your comfort zone a lot. Or a little. Shout out to Kenneth, by the way, for getting out of his comfort zone and admitting it last week, but he did a wonderful job. So good job to all of the rest of you as well. So anyway, I'm encouraging you to do your lesson sort of like I did my lesson for you. And it's all based on this poem here actually, it's based on an experience that I had starting April 5th. So I'm not going to read you every slide here, but I'll talk you through it quickly, and know that you're going to have to spend some time going through these slides to be able to understand what we're doing this week. So anyway, it all started on April 5th, which is a long time ago now, obviously. And I found this poem on social media, posted. The one that I saved was by Christine Justice, and it was all about living in the times that we do now. And it had this photo on the next slide, the photo on the left here. It had this photo along with it, and it said that this poem had been posted or written way back in 1918 for the Spanish flu pandemic, and how ironic that it is so appropriate for today. So I saved that thinking, since we were going to be doing poetry, that this would be something we could use for a lesson in the future. So lo and behold, yesterday, when I go back in to find this poem, I find that my Facebook saved article is covered up with that filter. And it says that this post that I saved had been false information. And I was kind of not surprised, but kind of surprised, because I'm kind of careful when I'm reading things on social media and deciding what I believe and what I don't believe. So I investigated a little bit further and went on and said that, the fact check of this poem, that it was written in 1918 to go with the pandemic, is false, and that it was written right now. So again, you can look through these slides on your own time, but the truth is that it was a lie, that it was posted or written in 1918. So I'm thinking, let's learn a little bit more about this fact checking stuff, because I've never really done a lesson on you with that. Sometimes I do with my sophomores, but we hadn't gotten to this year. But you hear about fact checking a lot. And it tells us here that third-party fact checkers investigate stories in a journalistic process meant to result in establishing the truth or falsity of the story. So this company, AFP, which I looked it up, and it's a journalistic group out of France, I believe. found out that it was false. And that this AFP fact check explains everything about how the post spread on social media. So this is actually really interesting right here. So take a look at that. And going on, it tells more about the original author, not the original author, the person who actually wrote this poem in 2020. And this is where I kind of started investigating. It said a keyword search found that this poem was in fact published on a blog here on March 16th, 2020 by Catherine M. O'Meara, a retired teacher in the US. It's entitled In the Time of the Pandemic. And Mrs. O'Meara's website says copyright of all visual and written materials on the Daily Round, which is the name of her blog, belongs solely to Catherine M. O'Meara. And now that I'm seeing this, I'm noticing that I spelled her name wrong a little bit later in the slideshow. So I apologize for that. So this made me curious, and it made me want to check out this lady's blog and, find out who she is. So again, I'm developing my lesson for you. So I'm investigating, and I find the real story about the poem's origins. And I find out that this lady goes by the name Kitty O'Meara, and the title of the poem is And the People Stayed Home. And you can actually click on this link right here and read the article yourself. It was published in Oprah's magazine, and I accessed it on Monday, yesterday. But I thought if you guys didn't want to go directly to that website, that I would I took screenshots basically of the article, and it's going to show up below. So it gives us the story of the poem and the author. Okay, so I kind of went through this and highlighted some of the important things or things that stuck out to me when reading this article on the Oprah website. And guys, please bear with us. It's Oprah, yes, and I know it's more of a female audience, but you're still going to learn something here. So what I have below here are screenshots with certain things highlighted and called out about the interesting part of the article. And I read the article really carefully, and I found out that the fact checkers were actually wrong. It had said that she was a retired teacher, but it actually says that her husband is a former teacher and chaplain. And I have deduced by reading the article about her that she actually is a retired nurse, I am thinking, even though it doesn't really ever actually say that. So anyway, I would love for you to go through these slides and just read everything that I kind of highlighted here. It's interesting. It looks long. It won't take all that long, but it talks about how something goes viral, which I know you guys know that term. And it's interesting how things can blow up. And it also talks about plagiarism. A Italian poet spoke up and said, hey, this lady took my words. And those claims of plagiarism there are addressed in this circle here. So it tells about the author, it tells about her inspiration, and it lets us know that her message is that we all have a gift, and that we should use this gift to do the best that we can, especially in times like this. And that is what I want to inspire you guys to do with this lesson. I know a lot of you don't think you're creative. I know a lot of you are struggling with this whole online homework thing. And quite honestly, I am too. It's taken me a long time to put this lesson together because I wasn't quite sure what I wanted to do. But anyway, if you keep going through here, you're going to just see we're almost to the end of her article. She talks about having her 15 minutes of fame. But this slide is where I get my inspiration for what you're going to do for me. Okay, this is picking and choosing a little bit from Miss O'Meara's quotes here. And it's time for other people to pick an art form and go for it. She says, you will feel better and you will be changed. And I want to challenge you to do something artistic this week, whether it be write a poem or write a poem that sounds more like lyrics, because remember we learned a couple weeks ago that songs are poems as well. And or you could draw something that reminds you of the pandemic. It doesn't even have to be pandemic related, but I think it would work. But I want you to do something that is maybe even comforting to you. I don't know if that makes sense, but something that others are going to get some good from. So after you're finished listening to me talk today, I want you to go again back through this slideshow, like I've said several times now, and read more about it. And maybe you'll be inspired to create something that I haven't even thought of here. So don't think that what I have in these boxes here and on the next slide is what you're limited to. So you could write a poem and you could put it in a slideshow, and you could talk about Mrs. O'Meara's poem for a while, and then you could read your poem at the very end. That's something that you can do. You don't have to write your own poem. You can talk about Mrs. O'Meara's poem and what it means to you, okay? There's lots of pandemic stuff out there. You could research other, pandemic art or quarantine art and talk about it. Just put those hashtags into your search engines, and I can guarantee you a lot of stuff is going to come up. Moving on to my next slide here. I put a link here to Mrs. O'Meara's blog, and it actually looks like this. It's called The Daily Round. And she posted this one yesterday on April 27th. And she's kind of inspiring. She sounds like a grandma, or she sounds like a great grandma, but I love her pictures. I think these are her dogs here. But she has all sorts of stuff. And remember that her poem blew up, went viral in April. So there, if you go to that day in April when she actually first posted it, you can see her. There's like 500 comments on that poem. So you could let your search lead you there if you want to see what other people are saying about her. Another thing you can do, and I did this, you could do a Google search for Catherine O'Meara tribute videos. And I had this come up, and basically what people did is make videos and have a, what do you call it? A recording of somebody's voice, a voiceover, have a narration or a voiceover with pictures in the background, a voiceover of someone reading her poem. I think that would be something that you guys could do that would be awesome. You could take a whole bunch of pictures that fit with her poem or fit with your family, and then you could record yourself reading the poem and then have something in the background. So I think that would be an awesome idea if somebody wants to go for that. And I think, I forgot to change the slide. I was going to put something else there. That's a repeat of the orange one there. So never mind. Sorry, I forgot to do that. All right. So one more inspiration for you. I've been saving these. And I know I have more well-written poems that you guys have created for me that are not on this slide. So if you've written an awesome haiku or put something in there and it's not included on here, I apologize. These are the ones that I could find quickly in my notes. This is something you could do too. Haley Herbert last week wrote a long quarantine poem with the ABAB rhyme scheme. And this is what she talked about in the video that she turned in last week. And Jocelyn, back a few weeks ago, wrote a coronavirus haiku. So that's something you could do too. You could make a slideshow and put one of your poems in as something that you do. Another thing that you can do, and I found this one in the paper today, you could just find a poem that somebody else has written and take a picture of it and put it in here. It looks kind of janky. I didn't cut it out very well, but this pretty much is me working from home. I hear the birds out in the yard. I hear people mowing, all that sort of thing. And this pretty much, I could have written this here. And so know that it's pretty easy to write a poem about the pandemic. Minimum of 3 minutes of presentation, however you want to do it. That's awesome. You guys have been doing really well on the videos and the audio stuff, but I have to hear you, and I would prefer to see you and hear you. Because I will tell you, last week when I was looking at your videos, it was the best week that I've had, honestly, since we've started all this. Like I said, it made me miss you, but it also made me happy to know that you're thriving, or at least doing your homework. So I appreciate that. Last thing here, I took this screenshot when I was getting ready to put this Screencastify up here. And no, like I said, remember how I told you might have a little orange exclamation point here? You might have to re-enable your Screencastify. And when you click on the Screencastify icon here, you might have to set up everything. So if it seems like that, you might have to set it up. That's no big deal. I think most of you thought that was pretty easy, and you did a good job on the screencast. So I am going to sign off. I can't wait to hear your minimum of 3 minutes everything that you do for next week. I will assign this through Classroom. You can turn your videos in through Classroom. I think you guys are getting all that stuff figured out. A couple of you I had to ask last week, you took really good notes, but you didn't turn your notes in, but you turned in your screencast. If you put your notes or something into a slideshow or into a Google Doc or something, if you wouldn't mind turning those in as well for me to use for future examples. I asked some of you guys to do that last week. So anyway, I know this is getting long. I don't believe I talked to you for 16 minutes. I will let you go. I miss you guys. Bye-bye.